Welcome to the One Fall WrestleCast.
One fall! I almost missed it. I was like, wait, I'm supposed to do something.
That was close. That was close.
Good. I like it.
Yeah.
Suspenseful. That's what that was.
Da-da. Yes, there we go. I did finish the last. I did finish The Last of Us Part 2 this week, and there was lots of suspense in that. So,
gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Glorious, wonderful,
doing fantastic.
Well, that's good. Much better than last week, there, huh, Tom?
So much better. Well, I don't know about better, but no new bad news to report on my end. No new pipes have started leaking. No new family members have contracted COVID. I finished a video game. So, it's all good.
Sounds like it was a pretty good week.
It's better than last week.
You get a lot done.
Yeah.
It's very eventful. Nothing major. Pretty much just coasting along. Same old. But pretty much just been sucked into a lot of Assassin's Creed in my life. Lots of murder. It's basically been it.
You're basically convincing me to dive into Valhalla. As much as I wanted to put it off, I'm looking at some of my backlog games as I load them into PS5, and I'm like, man, these just aren't current gen games. They don't look as good.
Actually, I went back for a minute and threw up Odyssey just to see the difference, and it was jarring. I think I'm assuming what it is, I should say, is so on Valhalla, I have it set up to play at 60 frames per second, not to go with the higher refresh rate because my TV can't support that.
That's redonkulous. Just at 60 frames with the 4K.
And then if you go back to Odyssey, it goes to 30 frames, and it's just like, oh,
it's almost
I thought
jittery.
Odyssey was beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost jittery.
Yeah. It was strange to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very weird. Just going back to back like that is whoa.
Yeah. What did I? Anywho, well, what we doing? What are we talking about?
So,
wrestling?
We're gonna talk about a little bit of wrestling.
I watched that.
Oh, let's do that.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of wrestling this week.
I watched a ton.
Gotta love the COVID closures. That's awesome. But we won't get into that nonsense. So the big news this week, gentlemen, the drama. Jim Ross getting a bunch of heat over in AEW.
Good old JR.
I guess on Friday on his podcast on it, I didn't listen to it this week. But he was talking about the evolution of the business, and I'll just go ahead and I have it right here. I'm just going to go ahead and read what he said. He was asked if moves such as Shawn Michaels Superkick or Jake Roberts DDT should be protected, or is this just an evolution of the business? And JR said that evolution of the business is bullshit. Yeah, they should be protected. The DDT is a finish. The Superkick is just part of the flow of the match now. Nobody wins with it. What does that say to you? Does that say guys back in the day were more proficient delivering a DDT or a super kick than this generation where things are evolving? I want some proof of that shit. I want somebody to prove to me that the changing of the wrestling business is what it is today and it's what making a difference. I say no. I told a kid the other day at AEW that everybody does the same fucking spot. All you guys go outside, you cluster up like coils, you stand there in a huddle, friends and foes together side by side so you can catch some leaping idiot going over the top who never wins with this move. They are looking for the holy shit chant. They love to hear this is awesome. It's a spot, folks. It's a trapeze act. I don't buy into that. The DDT is a great finish and should be used as such this week. Because of that, I know that Brandon Cutler tweeted this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite 7 vs. 7. We're going to go outside, cluster up like coils, stand there in a huddle, friends and foes together side by side to catch some leaping idiot going over the top. Can't wait. 8 p.m. TNT. To which Dax Harwood said, imagine not listening to criticism from the men and women who've helped shape our profession and paved the road and allows us to make a living today, all because someone hurt your feelings. Mm-hmm. I know where I stand in this debate, guys. What say you? Derek?
Tom, you're up, buddy.
All right. So, and JR hit the nail on the head, right? So, he obviously has to watch and call this every week, and he calls these spots. These are the spots he sits next to, and I'm not saying this is JR's fault necessarily, but JR watches Excalibur go full on basement mark for these Outlaw Mud Show spots. Everybody has to take a dive. Everybody, Tope, suicide, Tope. Even though he yells Tope, even if they don't go over the top, because Tope means top. If they dive through the middle rope, he's Tope. It's not a tope if they don't go over the top. That's fine though, Excalibur. I understand. I don't really understand, to be fair, Excalibur. I know that he wears a mask. And that he was like a mask-wearing guy in a promotion that I didn't watch. And they didn't explain that until Brandy Rhodes came out and made fun of him. Somehow I've turned this into making fun of Excalibur, but that's part of it. Is that like they've got the Mark commentator in Excalibur, who is basically the play-by-play guy, which is what Jim Ross was for WWF back in the day. And then Jim Ross comes out and says, talks about the evolution of the business, talks about should the DDT be protected. I like the DDT as a finisher. I think tons of guys have used the DDT as a finisher in many different ways. Jake Roberts did it very well, but if you think about Raven and Raven's DDT, which was excellent, because Raven's DDT, it was like a spike. It's so good. Finn Balor
kind of favors the paradigm shift.
Yes, that I was going to say the paradigm shift is DDT. Yep. What was it? It's called. What was it called in when he did it in WWE?
Dirty Deeds.
Dirty Deeds. The Dirty Deeds DDT. It's like and then Andrade also uses the Hammerlock DDT as the finisher, which is great. So I feel like the DDT in and of itself is at least a very big near fall, and everybody look. The DDT when Jake Roberts did it wasn't 100% protected. People kicked out of that. It wasn't this thing that it was a guarantee. Jake Roberts was a heel. He lost most of his matches. So a lot of people kicked out of his DDT. So I think that in that respect that it's not necessarily a finisher. I mean, it can be. Clearly the Hammerlock DDT is very protected. I don't know that I've seen anybody kick out of that. Same thing with Paradigm Shift, Dirty Deeds. There was one that was called like some kind of a ride or something that was sort of a similar, and he used it. John Moxley used it in Japan. Some kind of ride. I can't remember the name of it.
I know that Edge and Christian both use an Impaler DDT as well.
The Impaler DDT. That's the other one I'm thinking about was
for the paradigm shift.
Yeah, Christian. He used that a lot. Edge ended up going with but yeah, it was really. So I feel like the DDT has always been sort of a protected finisher, in the sense that it was always at least a near fall portion. But if somebody put a little bit of flair, a little bit of pizzazz on it, although Jake Roberts definitely did put some flair on his. So I do think,
by all accounts, Jake Roberts is the originator of the DDT.
True. Yeah, so, and I feel like his was snappy and it was to the point. I feel like there are lesser versions of it, is what I'm getting at. But I fully agree with what JR was saying there. And just to break it down a little bit further, there are finishing moves that are protected that I think is bullshit, like the One-Winged Angel. I will rail on this move as often as humanly possible, because nobody's getting anybody up on their shoulders in that electric chair, first of all. And in Japan, it was worse, because in Japan, he'd wander around with those little guys for a little bit before he'd put it on there, because Japanese dudes are littler. And it's just such a load of crap that everybody wants their finisher to be protected. And it's so now it's people are just coming up with the most ridiculous things they can think of. And so I see what he's saying, and I see what he's saying with the super kick. It is just a transition now. I don't know that I necessarily thought that it was great before, but when Shawn Michaels did it, it was it had a setup. It was like the People's Elbow.
Yeah,
it wasn't
it meant something.
Yeah,
when Shawn Michaels did it, it mattered. It was a whole production. Right,
there was a setup to it. It was like Randy Orton with the RKO. He bangs on the. It's if there's a setup to it and there's a big production to it. While I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that, I understand that at that point it's supposed to be a finishing move, just a quick little snap kick is,
If
I
we're
don't
just
know.
over here having super kick parties,
Yeah.
basically they just need to slap their legs harder or something. I don't know. Maybe that'll
Yeah.
make it a finisher.
Maybe,
Look,
but
the super kick is the most overused in professional wrestling right now. You're
Oh,
not going to
huge.
tell me
Everybody's
any.
doing it.
You're not going to tell me any different. I can name 5 people right now that use the super kick as a setup move. The
just
Usos.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying like that. That's how
Well,
quick.
do they count as 2 people?
No,
'Cause
they
they're-
count as one.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
count as one person. Okay,
yeah,
that's
I
fair.
mean, why not? I mean,
That's fair.
Usos, the
Tom's
Bucks.
favorite
Kevin Owens.
Dolph.
You know what
Dolph
I mean?
does
Like, there's all kinds of guys out there that are using the super kick as a setup move. And back in the day, it was over. That was it. Shawn Michaels hit that move. It was over. Very, very few kickouts from the super kick, unless they were in like these big time WrestleMania moments with Undertaker and stuff like that.
He
But
also would use a flying elbow drop on occasion. Obviously, Macho Man inspired.
I mean, Ric Flair, he was retired with the super kick from
He
Shawn
was.
Michaels.
That's right. That's a good.
Which, of course, he came back, but
He was sort
Still.
of retired.
yeah,
I
he should have just stopped it.
I agree with Jim Ross in the sense that, like, yeah, a lot of moves should be protected. The DDT, the super kick. I don't know that. I just said the super kick. I don't know that the super kick is a protectable move. In my honest opinion, because it's not. It's iconic when Shawn Michaels does it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that just a side kick, a step side kick, is necessarily a super. It's necessarily a move that gets to be protected. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that it's just a kick. It's like, just like the Big Show's big knockout punch. I don't think you get to protect that either. So
I mean, and it's like the choke slam. Even I was going to use that as an example. Every big guy uses the choke slam now. I mean, I've even seen Damian Priest use it recently.
that was always the transition move, though. You got the choke slam before you got the tombstone.
Right, and that was with the Undertaker and Kane. But I mean, for a long time, the Big Show used the choke slam as his finisher. Before the knockout punch thing came about and all that good stuff.
Well, Andre used it too a little bit before. It wasn't one of his super signature moves, but he would use it because he was just a huge guy. And I think a lot of the allure of the choke slam, particularly, is just the fact that you get a guy who's 7 feet tall, who's even bigger. And I think that's the key to it, is the dude has to be massive. Like, Damian Priest is not you stand Damian Priest next to the Big Show, and the Big Show's got a head on him, and Damian Priest is a big dude.
Yeah.
And, so that's why I feel like, the Big Show would hold a dude up there. He'd brace their back a little bit, but he would hold a dude up there for a long time before he would slam him down. And that worked out. I don't really like his knockout punch. I kind of thought that was lame. But as far as the other thing that Jim Ross said about catching flying idiots and just getting spots and everything else, we could discuss finishers that are protected and not protected and whatever all day. But I really think the spot fest and the spot monkey thing is kind of the crux of the situation here. And I think I don't know that I don't know that Cutler was out of character or even complaining about it. I think he may have been agreeing with Jim Ross, but I think in agreeing with Jim Ross, he may have sort of been saying, you're calling the kettle black here, because here in AEW, every single match has a dive, a tope.
Yep.
Every single match has some kind of screwiness going on outside, some kind of like kerfuffle happening. And, that's a very Vince thing too. And it's not, I don't think that necessarily, and maybe they do want to compete with Raw. They're going to lose if they want to compete with Raw. They're going to lose if they want to compete with SmackDown, just because they don't have the talent, they don't have the money, and they don't have the talent behind it to do that. So, or the viewers. So to get half as many views to, continue to do the same type of stuff they're doing on Raw and SmackDown, but worse, I feel like is a mistake. And that's kind of really what I thought Cody and the Bucks and all those guys, they didn't want to go WWE. They didn't want to go and do these things, but they made a show that's basically, hey, you want to see Raw but with indie wrestlers instead? And that's really what, and I think that's really what it comes down to, is that, like, and Raw's got, the stuff they do on AEW is really on Raw are kind of reserved for, like, the lower tier guys who aren't really over. The guys who are, like, the mid-card guys trying to work their way up. You don't see, I mean, I guess Roman will occasionally do a dive onto stuff, onto people, but, like, you don't necessarily see Roman doing that week in, week out. You haven't seen him do it in weeks. You don't see, you don't see Braun Strowman do that. Good Lord, you don't see Brock Lesnar do that, although Brock's not quite signed to WWE at the moment. But, you don't see Drew McIntyre do that stuff. Things like that. Like, those guys are not those top tier guys who are putting on the top tier matches, who hold the belts. They're not doing that stuff. You see it in the tag matches sometimes. I guess it fits there, but even there, like, when Montez Ford does it, it looks way better than when anybody in AEW does it. You know what I mean?
And I think too, a lot of that is the timing of the setup of everything too.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that in the past, where it's very noticeable on an AEW show that, like, guys are getting in place and they're waiting. You don't have that as much on the WWE side of things. It's like, hey, I'm going to jump off the top rope, to the outside on top of everybody down here. And all of a sudden the pile just appears, and I don't know if that's due to the extra polish on the production piece, where we're not getting to see that take place and that happen, or if that's just the in-ring work. But you don't see it nearly as much on the WWE side of things as you do in the AEW side of things. And it does, for me, it takes me out of it. And I agree with JR on that, where you're getting all these guys hanging out, just waiting. Yeah. And I get what he's saying. I really do.
So I want to hear what Derek has to say about this, but I have another point to make in this.
I understand all of your all's points, and they make a lot of sense. And while I do agree with you about the WWE production, I do think that has I think it's a mixture of both things. I think it's a skill set that they're a higher level. They're just a touch above. Now, not everybody, but for the most part, they're like the 1A to the 2B of AEW, especially on the production end. But I think the way that JR went about expressing this might not have been the greatest. He might have had it cleared with Tony Khan, who knows, before he even did it. If he didn't, he probably needs to think about who signs his paychecks. At least that's what I would be thinking.
I don't know that JR needs paychecks anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those Moscow mules aren't that cheap.
maybe he had a few too many Moscow mules before the railroad.
That could have been the case. That's usually probably something that would have been reserved for a live show, but we can't do those at this time. So, but I get what he's saying. And you know what? I get what Dax is saying. I totally do agree with him on that. Is, if JR, the legendary JR, not just JR, comes to you and is saying this stuff, you boys need to listen. JR has been around this business for a long time. And I'm not trying to imply that he's a dinosaur by saying that. The man knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing.
I mean, he was on everything that made all the besides whenever the only things that JR wasn't on whenever wrestling was getting the most ratings and making the most money was when WCW was in their 83 weeks of beating WWE. But prior to that, he was with Jim Crockett Promotions when Jim Crockett Promotions was tearing it up. He was in NWA when NWA was hot and Flair was the champ. He was, there with the Midnight Express and when they were breaking all those records. He was calling a lot of those matches, and he was a backstage guy at that point. I think he was even a referee at that point too, a little bit. So he's been, man, as much as I kind of disagree sometimes with JR, and I'm like, man, what's this guy talking about? He's been around for an eternity, and he was there for all of the high points of what professional wrestling is. Like he was the guy watching the high points of wrestling. Like you think about back to legendary moments, JR was there. Moving on, the other thing that I wanted to point out too is that this week, this isn't exactly how I want to put it, but they put Keith Lee, Otis, and a couple other big guys who are on the main roster. They're going
one of them.
Almost, yeah. A lot of those big guys, they're like, okay, you guys are going to go and train now on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays.
Yes.
Is it a 3-day? Okay.
Is it 3? Oh, okay.
So
I was thinking it was 2 originally.
So they're going back to the Performance Center to do some training for some little stuff. So I thought about it because, Walt, you pointed that out earlier this week. And I thought about it, and I thought about it more. And truthfully, in my opinion, I feel like it's – at first I was like, oh, no, it's a demotion. But then I read a little more. It's not really a demotion. It's like extra work. You're going to the Performance Center. So my thought, too, was that one, Vince didn't want Omos and those other guys going down there because he did kind of scoop up all the big men from NXT. So I feel like Keith Lee and Otis are down there. Yes, because they're both a little bit green. And Otis particularly maybe a touch like kind of unhinged and unsafe, and maybe they need to reel that in a little, sort of to clean up because Keith's a little bit green. I don't, I've heard other people talk about how, Keith Lee's amazing. I agree. He's great, but there are things that Keith Lee could do better. And I don't think that, and Keith may have said, hey, yeah, now that I've been up here, I've worked with the top guys. You want me to continue to work with the top guys, but I would like to continue to hone my craft. I need to ask Shawn Michaels questions. I need to talk to Matt Bloom, stuff like that. So I think that it maybe is more of an opportunity for these big guys, because these big guys are going to get pushed. Vince loves a big dude, and these are huge dudes. These guys are going to get pushed. They're going to get title runs. They're going to have titles on them. And I feel like this is just that spit and polish before, we get back to big live shows while they can be like, okay, hey, you come tape SmackDown or you come tape Raw on Monday, and then Tuesday you drive across the street to the Performance Center and do like, this is that. And to me, that's what WWE has over AEW is that AEW does not have a Performance Center. They do not have a training facility. WWE has always had that. They had, prior to it being the Performance Center in NXT, it was FCW, it was Florida Championship Wrestling. They had OVW, they had Ohio Valley Wrestling. Those were sort of their training centers. They were training those guys. They were giving them classes. It was very school oriented. You were training to become a WWF superstar.
Very territory like even.
Exactly, very territory like. Even WCW had the Power Center, if you remember.
Yep.
So there was that like the power plant, right? Yes. So there was always that level of, look, you guys are fine. We're going to put you on. You can have some TV time so you get used to that. But then you got to get back to work, get back to working out, get back to doing shit, get back to learning, because you got to learn this business before you can be on TV and have a major title run. And I feel like that's really what AEW is missing. And I feel like that's what JR was getting at, is that these guys can't learn because there's no like real learning thing, but they already think they know everything.
Right,
if that's the case, though, why? Okay. For one, Keith Lee has been, in my mind at least, nothing but a saint throughout this whole process.
He's great.
The man has rolled with the punches the whole way. Vince has completely changed everything. The fans were not happy. Keith Lee obviously probably had a little bit of, he knew that people were not going to be happy when he's coming out in a skirt. They changed his music, not a skirt, but you get what I'm saying. The entrance costume was a little weak, little goofy there. And with Otis, the man held the Money in the Bank briefcase. Why did you even put it on him? I love Otis, and it pissed me off, to be honest with you, that this whole Miz aspect happened, and then that comes in, and the Miz somehow steals it from him. We've never seen that before, so that's great that we got a new angle out of it, I guess.
Yeah, that's happened before.
Has it? Okay, I guess
That's been a thing. I mean, it's
I
not
did
a
not
huge
remember a
thing.
time of that, but like that was just
So the briefcase is a gimmick. It's a very
it's an
it's not
opportunity though.
if it's if wrestling is real, the briefcase is an opportunity. And it's real,
So are you implying that wrestling is fake, sir? Junkyard Tom?
I would
Were you going to use the F word?
I would never.
Blast.
I would never fucking say fuck. So
Follow the
just to
fucking guidelines.
follow the fucking guidelines. So just to get to the point of what you were saying here about pulling the wool over the eyes. Another thing I want to point out, and we can brush this under the table because I was watching I was watching Figure Four wrestling. I was watching Mr. Brian Alvarez on the YouTubes talk about how the best segment in wrestling right now is Kenny Omega and this whole Impact crossover thing and all of that. And I've watched it. I watched all of it and I'm like, how is this the best thing in wrestling? Like, it's not. This isn't even
That was the
interesting.
most boring 15 minutes of TNA, and that's bad.
TNA is awful. But anyway, so he said that, and he said it with full conviction. This is a man that criticizes WWE every week to scrutinizes it gets the nails in about like the rules, not just the baseline rules, like the deep rules. Like, why is this not the rule? And this gets deep into it. And he's talking about how that's a great storyline. I think it's crap, personally. But you know what? Brian Alvarez and I have had our own disagreements on Twitter. That's my only thing. I was like, hey, Brian disagreed with me on Twitter. That's great. But what was I getting at with this? So the one thing that they did, and they're doing that all on TV and kayfabe, but the quickest thing they were able to do is pull the curtain back and say, hey, here's how we set all this up. Here's the mechanics. Here's the non-kayfabe reasoning behind this. Here's what's going on. And they explain the whole thing. They let the cat out of the bag, and it's like, how could you guys not keep kayfabe on this for a week? They're already blown kayfabe. So to me, I agree with Jim Ross and what he's saying. I think it even goes further though than people just getting their spots in. I feel like the blown kayfabe, they don't think it's real anymore. And to me, that's bull. You know what I mean? I think that's complete garbage. Pat McAfee took that dive off the top of the ring, and then when he did his podcast the following week, he had the fake neck brace on. So don't tell me that kayfabe's not alive, because to me, especially in the post-kayfabe world, I feel like keeping kayfabe is more important now more than ever. And that's the other thing AEW does, is blow it off the top, is that it's not only are we going to get our stuff in, we're going to tell you it's a load of crap going in. And that's why it's not going to grow. They might get 1 million subscribers. They might get 1 million people to watch. But that's it. It'll never go further.
They will.
It'll never go bigger than that. They'll hit 1 million people, maybe, now that they've got Sting, and now they're I don't know that their Impact thing is going to do any better, but they've got Sting. But it's still not. They're breaking all the rules, and I feel like they're doing that on purpose. But at the same time, they're breaking the rules that kneecap the business, and they're going to kneecap their own viewership in the process. And I feel like that's almost what JR was saying. He's a smart guy who was there for all the big things, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you make good points, Tom. You kind of. I tried to be the foil in the whole thing and try to disagree with you guys, but I don't know that there's much leg to stand on there. I think JR might have this one here.
But does he? Because now let me ask.
Jesus, here we go. What's going to happen now?
Okay, so
where's this guy coming from? What is this?
Talk about the evolution of the business, right? There's always been evolution. You go all the way back to Gotch and Luthez and those guys. That was almost like a shoot, right? Professional wrestling was almost like a shoot. Those guys would go out and they'd roll around and they would do real wrestling holds and maneuvers and stuff like that. That was loosely scripted. And then that was kind of the norm for professional wrestling. Then you fast forward a little bit and you get into the Greg Gagnes the Vern Gagnes and the Ric Flairs and that generation of guys where it became a little bit more of a stand-up show kind of thing, and it was about the showmanship and the entrances and all this and all that. Then you move forward a little bit more, and then you get the Owen Harts and the Shawn Michaels, where those guys are the ones that are coming off the top rope and they're doing things a little bit different and they're a little more high flying type of thing. There's always gonna be some sort of evolution. You've got to look at it from that perspective as well, that just as the business continues to grow, so does our expectations as fans, that we want to see the big spot. For the most part, the professional wrestling fan base wants to see that big spot. For me, I'd rather sit back and have somebody tell me a story. But 9 out of 10 wrestling fans want to see that big spot, that oh shit moment.
I want to see it built too, though. I want to see the big spot, but I don't want to see the big spot just like because it's time. Oh, wait, we haven't done this yet. I haven't jumped over the top rope and hit. There's like 9 guys outside. How have I not jumped on them yet? We got to get them all together for somehow. Let me spit over there, and they can all go, hey, just spit. Jump over the top rope. That's dumb. And especially I don't want to see the big spot that I saw the last match and the match before that and the match before that. If you're going to do a big spot, you better wow me with big spot, because I've seen some crazy stuff, and we don't do hardcore wrestling anymore. But I watched Mick Foley fall through a cage in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and almost die, and also get all his teeth knocked out of his face at the same time. And dear God, as God is my witness, he's broken in half. JR was there. He made that
call of the century.
Call of the century. So I've seen it, and your little dive to be caught by dudes does not top a man that practically killed himself.
No, that dive doesn't constitute a holy shit chant in my book. I'm sorry.
It doesn't. So, and and I'm not saying that they need to mankind themselves, but at the same time, you need to earn that.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Look, I wouldn't. I mean, in a post Chris Benoit world, I don't know. Because
the hospital bills would probably kind of get a little outrageous.
I mean, I guess it was a choke slam, huh? We were talking about the choke slam earlier.
Oh, it was a hell of a choke slam.
It was a choke slam through the cage. Whew. But I mean, I've seen the spots I saw, truthfully, like AEW does the same spots every week.
Yeah.
And, we just had War Games, and I saw new spots at War Games. They do new spots at War Games like every year. I mean, AEW doesn't, like, they do more spots, but they don't do spots of that same caliber. So they either need to up the caliber of spots, because right now all they're doing is like, you could sit there and eat whatever your favorite food is, chocolate. You could sit there and eat, 300 chocolate bars, but like the first 2 are really good. But by the time you get to like number 300, you're like throwing up in your own lap. So, I feel like with AEW, with AEW, I'm by the end of the show, I'm ready to throw up in my own lap, and I don't want that anymore. Like, do something else. Give me a chicken wing, man.
Damn.
I know. I'm sorry, man. I'm like burying this shit this week.
Hey, Tom's on it this week.
Tom is definitely on it this week. I don't know, man. I'm not opposed to the evolution of the business as long as it's good, and I think that the direction that we're headed, it's not good, and I'm 100% with JR. And I like the fact that some, upper echelon talent like FTR has come in and said, hey, you need to, if you think this is about you, maybe you need to take a look at yourself. And I'm not mad at that at all.
I mean, those men have made it as far as they have with the gimmick of no flips, just fists. So you don't need it.
That.
They proved that.
I love that gimmick.
And they lost the belts because they went to the top rope.
Yep.
They did.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great little wrinkle they put in there. I loved it.
That was the best.
Lose the belts, but
that was the best Young Bucks match ever. I mean, it proved to me that the Young Bucks. Young
That's
Bucks
the best
actually,
AEW match they've had.
it really was. That proves to me the Young Bucks didn't necessarily suck. They just suck at putting their own matches together. And they need to not let them do that. I would watch FTR fight the Young Bucks every week if they let FTR put it together. They have to get a little creative, but still.
You wouldn't want to throw up in your lap after that?
I mean, I wouldn't. I would if it was if they put the Lucha Bros in there too.
Uh,
But otherwise,
agreed, sir.
no,
Agreed.
cool.
So
If I have to suffer through one more Zero Miero or whatever it is, I'm out. I hate it.
leave Pentagon alone, man.
It is just overdone.
You're not, dude.
Give me something else.
If you see one, if you you can give shit to the Young Bucks, but if you've seen one Lucha Bros match, you've seen every Lucha Bros match.
Gentlemen, match of the week. What are we looking at?
Who wants to go first? There we go. Derek, go, buddy.
I can go. So, actually, we were kind of having this conversation beforehand. I didn't get a lot of wrestling in this week, fellas. I've just got.
It's because you were living in Valhalla.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I've been living the Viking life for a minute, and I actually did watch.
Did you create a male or female character?
I went with a guy.
You did?
For Odyssey, I went with a female. For Valhalla, I felt like it was probably she'd be more geared to a male.
Cassandra was actually canon in Odyssey.
Yeah.
So good for you. I don't know what canon is for. I don't think there is canon. I think it's just whatever.
I think actually it's and I don't know how it does this, but the game actually can pick. There will be certain segments where if you choose this option that you'll be a man or a female. Not sure how they actually explain that, but the Animus isn't a magical little place.
So magical.
Basically, I actually watched a full episode of TNA because my intention was, I was thinking, you know what, I'm gonna show up on Wednesday, or not on Wednesday. What am I saying? On Monday, and I'm gonna find this diamond in the rough. Tell the guys all about it. They're gonna love it, and I'm gonna inspire them to tune in next Tuesday, and we're all gonna love Impact, and it's gonna be great. And yeah, I realized there was no diamonds to be found, boys. That was a fucking shit show. So it was rough. I did find TJ Perkins though. That's where he went. He's over there.
I always like TJP.
I mean, I never liked his matches, but like when he would get the mic and talk, I was
bad for the guy, man. They saddled him with a horrible gimmick, in my opinion. Like you're some sort of weird game over gamer thing, and I mean, I feel like I can't behind it.
I feel like they saddled him with himself, and that's a bad gimmick. He himself was a bad gimmick.
Poor guy lived out of a car before he came to.
Yeah, he maybe needed like a Kane type gimmick or something, or like I don't know. He needed something else. He needed like a mask, maybe like a creepy persona.
You can go with that.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna have to go with this. I wouldn't say it was the match of the week. I mean, possibly, but surely there had to have been better things that I did not see, as far as actual technical wrestling goes. But I was not upset to watch Sasha Banks get her ass beat with a bottle of champagne from Carmella, the bottle service lady. That was quite entertaining, boys.
I did enjoy that. So I that got a lot of flack online, but
really,
yeah, when I watched it, I was like, you know what, this wasn't one. I really like Carmella, and I think Carmella in the title picture is a good thing. I loved her title run, and I don't like this gimmick as much as I like the sort of Princess of Staten Island gimmick, although it's sort of similar, but I still like Carmella. I think she's a great wrestler. I think she's underrated. She's not 4 Horsewomen wrestler level, but I think Carmella is really good. And to see her back in the title picture is bueno to me. I think her with Sasha's good. I think Sasha's a terrible face, but They just need to make Sasha heel. Leave Sasha heel. Just leave her heel. That's
I mean, we're
really
gonna see her
Explain it
lose the belt
later.
at TLC anyway. It won't matter.
fine that she could turn back heel, okay? Because she needs to be the heel, and then she can win it back as a heel and just be the worst heel, be the meanest person, be
Yeah.
like just be so mean. And maybe she's probably really nice in real life. That's probably the problem. She probably has a really hard time like being that just like terrible.
Not what I heard.
Not
I'm
what
just
I heard either.
maybe it's hard to be just that mean on camera. Anyway, I don't know. My
So
match,
hold on before we
Hold
go on. Can I throw something out to you guys? So
maybe.
I was thinking about this the other day. Carmella's new gimmick, right? Remember there was a bit there where Liv Morgan, she had some vignettes where she's making a tease that she's in the bathtub, she's got this sexy gimmick going on, and that was going to be her new thing after she
Yeah,
was out of the Riot Squad.
of course.
And then it kind of just fizzled out and we kind of got nothing, and now we're Riot Squad again with some eye makeup and whatnot. And then we have Carmella coming out looking a little more risque than we'd seen previously when she was the Princess of Staten Island. What are the odds are Liv Morgan's gimmick went to Carmella? What do you guys think?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, buddy. Truth be
Damn.
told, I don't know that I've ever agreed with you more on this podcast.
Wow.
But I think that you hit the nail on the head. Maybe Liv wasn't like cool with it, or maybe like it wasn't working for her. Maybe she's just not like sultry enough.
Yeah,
or,
maybe
like,
that's just not her thing, you know? I mean,
it's just not her thing. That doesn't seem to be her thing.
no.
On a very personal level, like she's a good looking woman. I'm not going to say that like
Oh,
she
yeah.
couldn't pull it off looks wise. I'm just saying that that's maybe not her personality, and it just maybe was too hard for her to like get over. But clearly, like Carmella, that's like her bread and butter, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's the one giving Corey Graves lap dances in the back, apparently.
Bingo.
Got him to what? Did he divorce his wife, or
They're divorced.
was it his wife, or just
yeah?
girlfriend?
It's his wife.
Yeah, wife.
That's wife with children. Yeah, that's a very.
Ooh.
That's a little terrible, but
You got some moves then, apparently.
I'm just saying, I mean, clearly, like she's very fit for this gimmick. Is all I'm saying. So that makes sense. Maybe Liv just couldn't pull it off. Carmella's better suited for it. Good for Carmella. I'm glad that I really like the Riot Squad. I liked them when they were a trio. I hope Sarah. I do. I really do. I hope Sarah Logan comes back. I like Sarah Logan a lot too.
Wasn't she pregnant too?
She's like about to give birth to children. Like it's fine. Look, I understand, but I hope that like after the fact, if Sarah Logan wants to wrestle again and not just be mom, clearly she can just be mom. But if she wants to come back and not just be mom, I hope she comes back. And I hope she wrestles again. And I hope she rejoins the Riot Squad. Because to me, that was great. And I feel like that was wasted potential. And I would like to see that. But it's my turn. I know.
The floor is yours, Tom.
I've talked a ton. And I'm sorry. But it's my turn. My fucking turn. All right. Honorable mention this week. And I'm going to tell you why it didn't get number one. Because I was digging it until I wasn't. So Tommaso Ciampa versus Cameron Grimes.
Yep.
Cameron Grimes can work. I don't care what anybody says. The dude is awesome. I fucking love Cameron Grimes. I love his look. I love the way he works. I love the game. I love his character. I love his finisher. Cameron Grimes is the man. Him versus Tommaso Ciampa was great. Shouldn't have beat Ciampa. I agree with that. Although it's hard to put him against Ciampa after he just got tore up a bunch, and then he just kind of got beat, and then he got slapped around after the fact, after he got in the face of Timothy Thatcher.
Yeah.
That to me was like the sort of like I was like, oh man, I'm really loving this. I'm really liking this. And then when like Thatcher came out and there was that whole scuffle thing, and like then Ciampa won with the Willow's Bell. I was still like, you know what? I like it. I like Ciampa. I like that whole thing. I like the match that they just had. And then he got slapped around by Thatcher too. And that for me was just like, I went from match of the week to me for like, nope, knocking it back down. It ain't. It just ain't. But luckily for me, as I continued to watch NXT, which I love with all of my heart. Raquel versus Ember Moon happened as the main event, and was it delicious. Oh my goodness. I like Raquel more and more every week. Every match she has, she gets better. Thank you, Performance Center. And they keep putting her with great opponents. They put her with Ember Moon this week, which, I hadn't seen her really with somebody like Ember Moon, who had sort of been this like high flying, like very technically savvy, very, very capable of like just hitting things, but also needing a lot of cooperation to make Ember Moon stuff look good. And it all looked great. She caught Ember when Ember went for the Eclipse. That looked great. It just really, for me, kind of hit all the points and like really kind of continued to escalate what I think is becoming kind of a very rise to power, a very quick rise to power for Raquel. Really enjoyed that a lot. And that to me was just like one of those things when I saw like, okay, this is booked as the main event. I'm like, this is going to get some time, and I'm going to watch this with some eyes on the prize. And it was great. I really liked it. It was a good match. And so that for me was match of the week. It was excelente.
It was a good match. Definitely enjoyed that one. So for me, my honorable mention was Tommaso Ciampa and Cameron Grimes. I didn't like it for the same reason that you didn't like it, Tom. It kind of took me away at the end there. I was actually really excited to see that happen, and then, however,
They just can't keep beating Cameron Grimes. They can't keep making him look like a chump. Like he's not. They made him so dangerous, and now he's like, he puts on a great match, and then he's a chump.
yeah. So that was my honorable mention, and then my match of the week was actually Pete Dunne versus Killian Dane.
That was good too.
The only thing I didn't like the finish. I didn't like
the finish. That's why I threw it out.
What I liked about it though was, NXT continues to just tie together loose ends on these open-ended stories, with Killian Dane coming back and saying, "Hey, did you think I was going to forget that you tried to kick my head off with a car door?" I thought that was really, really, really cool. Just the way that they were able to put all that together and tie it in and bring it back. And, that's just NXT Triple H continuing to just tie together them loose ends and make life good. One other thing though that I did like was the Karrion Kross return. I really like the way that they brought Karrion Kross back. In my opinion, that was a perfect return.
That whole segment I thought was great, with Balor coming out and talking about and cutting. Balor cut a great promo, and then a bunch of dudes come out. They all cut really good promos. And then as Balor walked up, and then he had to talk to Charlotte, or had to talk to oh
Scarlett.
God, what's her name? Scarlett. Thank you. Yeah, Scarlett Bordeaux. Scarlett. And
how can you forget her?
I was thinking about Charlotte Flair. That's how I forgot about her.
And then you get Damian Priest going, "Hey, Smoke Show.
Yeah.
Make sure you tell your boy not to wait in the car next time." And that just set it up perfect. That was great.
Damian Priest is really growing on me. I was not a fan, honestly, at first.
The more they've let him talk, the more I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like at first they didn't let him talk, but I feel like he got it. Like something clicked for him. And like, because his moveset's the same. I mean, he's getting better. Obviously, he's training to be the best wrestler in the world. But like, something clicked for him talk-wise. And it's just like every time he talks, it's like, man, I really like how self-assured he is. And it's good every time. Just give him the mic. Let him talk. I want to hear about it.
For sure. Well, gentlemen, I think that puts a bow on this week in wrestling. What do we think?
It's glorious. It was good. It was a good week. Well, it was a pretty good week.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't find anything that I didn't enjoy. And I think that when we come off here, I'm probably going to turn on the old tube and watch some Raw and see what's going on there.
I'm just happy there wasn't any major, I mean, it's always great when we have some news, but never great when we have bad news.
Yeah, no bad news. We're just talking about drama. I prefer drama to bad news.
Drama's always fun to talk about.
I don't like it when Tom has the bad news Tom up as his banner. Then it's
That's why I'm junkyard Tom today. I'm like JYD up here, except I'm JYT. Oh yeah.
No doubt. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again this week. Make sure you check out the our social media pages, at
people follow us.
Fall WC on both Twitter and Instagram. Check out the YouTube page, One Fall WrestleCast. Make sure you swing by and check out some of our merchandise, which, gentlemen, I got the t-shirts came in, and they are nice.
It's t-shirt time. And I tell you what, we have the cheapest hoodie. Not cheap in quality, cheap in price. This ain't a $50 hoodie. It's a good hoodie. You should come get our hoodie.
So link will be in the description box. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And
hit the bell. Do the bell thing.
Don't do the bell. The bell.
Do the bell.
I agree.
Because you need something at midnight waking you up, letting you know, hey, it's podcast time.
Put it on. Go back to sleep.
Yeah, we don't care. That's a play. Thanks, guys.
And if you like what we're
just
doing,
stay awake, but instead we'll subliminally message you as you sleep. It'll be great.
And if you like what we're doing, there'll be a place in the episode description that you can help us out. Give a little donation. Nobody's asking you to do that, but if you want to do it, that'd be awesome.
We'll take $1.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, talk trash to Tom. Tom likes it. He'll talk
Love
back.
it. Oh my God! Please talk trash. Oh,
no,
please.
Yeah, it's great.
Please.
That was like the most random thing ever, too. It just opened up my computer one day, and it's like, "Fuck you, Tom." I'm like, Tom wasn't even mean in that episode.
More of that.
Yeah.
Approve those messages. More of that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Please.
Awesome. It's all
Orange
love.
Cassidy sucks.
Orange Cassidy sucks.
There we go.
It's all love. We'll see you guys next week. I'm Walt.
Cheers, homies.
He's Tom. He's Derek. This is One Fall WrestleCast.
Peace out.